Leela and Stockfish are definitely the two best chess engines in the world. Leela is more like, neural network kind of thing, where Stockfish is more brute force, trying to calculate as much as possible. And in this game, we'll see Leela beating Stockfish. And this was a completely unofficial game, by the way. This was just on my computer versus my computer. And you can see that this game turned out very, very nicely. So the game started with um, a very, very standard Italian opening. And what ended up happening in the opening is that, White just got a slightly better structure. Now White has ideas of playing d4. Now, d4 here is not really that good of a move because you have to sort of protect your center first. So now h3, now preventing bishop g4, bishop c6, now knight e3. Now if you take back with the knight. a6 now. If you take and play knight c4, for example, then black just plays bishop e7, and basically the point of h3 is in general the bishop can now drop back to a7. Black does not want to give away the bishop here. So bishop g5 is played by white. Now this knight is pinned. And now the bishop goes to h4. Now, Leela here actually really wanted g5, which is the top engine move after the engine thinks. Now, it's important to note that Stockfish here does not play correct move. And the reason for this is because Stockfish played moves very, very quickly. So knight a5 is actually the first mistake. And this allows Leela to play for exactly what he wants. Now, this knight on a5 is misplaced. Take, and now white, Leela has a big center. Queen to d7 is played. I guess this move maybe was a threat, though g5 is possible getting out of that threat. So queen d7 is played. Now, getting out of the pin. And actually here Leela really wanted knight c6, but queen d7 is played. And now d5. Now this knight is almost trapped. So you can see this knight doesn't really have anywhere to go. Obviously, both of these engines saw that immediately, a lot of times in the past. c5 is played. Now this is actually an idea in many other openings where, or at least one opening can come up with where black plays knight a5 and c5, and this knight is pretty much untouchable because you can't go b4 because then you would take it, and you have ideas of playing pawn to c4, supported by this and maybe b4 ideas. So knight c2 is played, which I think is a very interesting move. That rewriting the knight to the e3 square, and now e5. And now I would say this next move here by Leela is very instructive as well. Just b3. Now controlling the c4 square. Bishop d8. Bishop takes f6. Bishop takes f6. Knight to e3. And now Leela wants to utilize the f5 square and try and attack black's king. And you can see in this game that Stockfish completely misevaluated one of these moves. b5 now. Stockfish is going for an attack. But now, a very, very nice move by Leela. This is like one of, common ideas. Alpha Zero was one of the first engines to sort of play like this. Is h4. Now with the idea to play h5, and h5 is played immediately. c4 and knight to f5. So Leela doesn't really care about this. He's saying, you know what, you have weak squares around your king. I have more space. My knight on f5 is untouchable because g6 I just take, and yeah. So knight b7 is played, and now b4. Now Leela completely shuts this plane off the board away. And here, according to Leela, this is interesting, bishop d8 is actually a massive mistake. And here, the winning move, which actually gives, according to Leela, an 80% win rate. And yes, Leela does not really calculate using pawns, like here you can say plus 0.7. Leela said after the move a3 that white has a 80% win rate here. So that's massive win rate. Stockfish plays now a5, trying to attack on the side of the board. And now knight h2 by Leela. Suddenly, this knight is maybe going to the g4 square, and there's going to be some attack, maybe queen g4 as well. So c3, queen g4. Right now threatening knight takes h6 because of the pin. So black moves the king, and now rook ec1, which, if I'm being honest, I don't quite understand that move. I don't quite understand that move. Anyways, rook c4 is played. I guess you just pressure the pawn. I don't know. Rook c4 is played. Now the knight goes back to f3. And now, very simply, what white wants to do is here, and then attack, maybe just fork the king and queen. Or maybe bring the rook to a8 and attack it this way. Basically, white has a lot of attacking ideas. Rook f6 is played. Rook b1. And now a takes b4. And now queen takes f5. Which, queen to f5 looks like a queen sacrifice. But if you take with a pawn, you lose your queen like this. So in reality, you just sacrifice the exchange. So white's up an exchange already, and Leela is completely winning after the opening. Knight h2, here attacking the rook. The rook moves away. Black, Stockfish tries to go for an attack, but it's simply f3. Very nice move. Now, the black's pawns are very weak. G3 and rook takes c2. You give away this pawn, but you have f4 and rook c1. This pawn's gone. Rook d3, king g2, and after a bunch of moves, and this is very interesting here, knight h4, rook d2, and rook d1. This is checkmate, actually. Really interesting here. Rook takes, bishop to e3, knight c5, rook takes, d6, and rook to d6, checkmate. So, very interesting. 50-move game. So the first thing I would like to take away from this game is that Stockfish very simply just misevaluated this attack. It didn't think this was winning, but it turns out it is. After b4 kind of shuts down all of the counterplay. Not really. There's still some counterplays. You can see, black got the rook c4 in. But as we see, these squares around the king were really weak. And, Stockfish ended up sacrificing the exchange. But black has pretty much no way of making progress here. You can see black's main plan in this position is to put this knight into action, put this bishop into action, but you can't. This bishop is blocked by its own pawns. This knight has nowhere to go. Probably the best move is to go bishop b6, because I guess this move is possible, and I guess maybe knight d8 is possible, but yeah, you can see knight h4, and suddenly the knight's going to g6. There's going to be sacrifices all over the place, and this rook can get in if it wants to, and white is doing absolutely great. So I would say this is a really instructive game. For one side, that basically Leela was like, you know what? After a3, my position is untouchable. And the only way for black to play for something is sacrificing the exchange like this, which is a separate thing. But in this game, just knight h2 and queen g4, and rook c1, and knight f3, and rook b1, and this structure here, black has no play. And it's really important to note, rook b1 is a very important move, because this pawn is restricting its play. For example, taking, already this is better for black, right? This is the thing. You have to keep this pawn on b4, right? So, really instructive game, I would say. Keeping this knight and the bishop out of bay, and eventually Leela ended up checkmating Stockfish. So, that was the video. Hopefully you guys will subscribe to the channel. I'm a relatively small YouTuber trying to grow. Bye.